welcome to the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 3 Contender Introduction Series. Before the show goes live on November 2nd, every Sunday I will be introducing one of the 8 contenders who competed for the Ultimate Self-Defense Champion title. Not only will you get to know more about them, but I'll also be asking them your questions. So make sure to check out Martial Arts Journey YouTube channel's community section, where you can pose your questions to the next contender. And now, without further ado, let's get to know one of the USDC Season 3 contenders.
If I would personally describe you in a short way, I'd say one of the great Krav Maga instructors, because Krav Maga has a lot of bad rep, but there's guys like you who actually do Krav Maga, which takes the best parts of Krav Maga and also takes the best parts of combat sports. And there's also the whole nomad philosophy that you run, which we're obviously going to talk about. But how do you personally describe yourself and introduce yourself if somebody asks you, what do you do and who you are?
So I always say I'm the world's best martial artist in the entire planet. And that goes without saying. But for real, no, if I was going to say what I am, it's really just a lifelong student, somebody who's always learning to try to be his best. And from there, being able to pass that to my students, my instructors, and my affiliates so that they're able to protect themselves the best. So that's what I do. I'm just a lifelong student of martial arts, of fitness, of mental resilience, and just trying to do my best to pass that on. I'm definitely not one of the greats, but as far as Krav Maga goes, there's a lot of stuff out there. I would say that what we offer is definitely among the very best top quality stuff. So for sure, I guess that's what I would say.
Yeah, nice. That's great. I'm sure you're leaving a lot of things out, but we'll get to them as we go further, because again, I know you do amazing work at Nomad Krav Maga, but we'll still get to that. So because some of the questions will naturally ask that. And just make sure we go through those questions. I'll pop up the first one and I'll read it out loud. The first question is, why did you start training Krav Maga instead of a different fighting style?
As far as what brought me to Krav Maga, first, it's actually not my first martial art. I really started in like traditional hardcore karate. It wasn't like a McDojo style karate. It's effective style karate, similar to like what Natan Levy does. And we're not going to say that's bad karate, right? So that was more so my start. I did that for many years. And then as I got older, I started looking for something that was going to be the most effective form of martial arts for like my day-to-day life. So at that point, I wasn't really interested in competing. I was really more so interested in being able to survive if something really bad happened to me or my family. And back when I started, I was a young guy, about 21. So I didn't really have like any kids or anything, but I had my wife and myself. I wanted to make sure that whatever came our way, I could deal with it. So did some research, found Krav Maga, never heard of it up to that point, found a place that was local to me, which was in Knoxville, Tennessee, started training that. And I saw, whoa, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It addresses, stand-up fighting. It addresses ground fighting. It addresses weapons, which most martial arts don't handle, especially combat sports. And I know that just through knowing how real life violence kind of unfolds, that weapons are a big part of situations that happen in real life. And I wanted to make sure I was able to handle that. So really trained that for a lot of years. And from there, once I got into, really deep into Krav Maga, I got my second degree black belt with the biggest, most well-respected organization on the planet. I started to see some deficiencies in it. And that's where I started kind of migrating towards my own thing and really putting in my cross training and all that stuff and creating Nomad Krav Maga. So long answer for a short question. Really, it was like I wanted to find what works the best for reality and would prepare me for, handling whatever came my way if something bad happened to me.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned some of the deficiencies behind a lot of the Krav Maga training. Again, I'm sure we're going to come to that through the questions asked by the audience, because it's a big question on people's minds. And again, one of the reasons why people are going to be excited to see how you will do in the championship. I'm quoting, some of the things I've seen that are unique to Krav Maga is training all-out aggression and dealing with riot scenarios. Assuming the person is right, how did the concepts help or hinder you in the USDC scenarios?
All right, definitely. So the mindset is really what separates Krav Maga from a lot of different martial arts, because there are like other martial arts that deal with weapons, like maybe Filipino martial arts with knives and sticks. There's firearms based training, which is going to deal with how do we utilize that gun, offensively for defensive purposes. But with Krav Maga in particular, since it kind of incorporates all those things, if you're doing it right, the mindset is one of the huge differences of Krav Maga. It's known as being one of the most aggressive styles of fighting and self-defense, because we're trying to neutralize the fight as quickly as possible, right? Because the longer a situation goes on, the more likely you as the defender are to get seriously hurt, and the more likely that the person you're trying to defend yourself against is going to get more seriously hurt than maybe reasonably necessary. So with that, as far as the competition went, I was really trying to approach it from a style that I would try to handle it in most situations in reality. So as far as going all out aggression, was that always the best course of action? Definitely not. Was it sometimes the best course of action? Definitely was. Did I do both? Yeah, for sure. So from there, it's really not all about aggression like so many Krav Maga instructors are always going to teach, where they're just like saying they can rip people's eyeballs out and grab their nuts and pull them off from their scrotum and shove them back down their throat and then say Krav Maga, right? No, it's not like that, because if you teach and train like that, you're basically kind of furthering a delusion that a lot of Krav Maga places have, that it's super easy to do that and handle people like that. It's not. When people are fighting back, it's definitely hard. Are those kind of targets and aggression levels going to help us? Sometimes, but that's kind of the thing. Don't always think that Krav Maga is super aggressive. If it's being taught right, there's a lot of de-escalation in there as well. Yeah, I was aggressive sometimes I wasn't.
How are the different schools of Krav Maga different? And what's the focus of the specific school that you're running?
Before we continue, I have some cool news. The Atomic Bear returns as a sponsor for Season 3, and now you can win their Stealth Pen Pro absolutely free. When you hear improvised weapon, you probably don't think a pen. But the Stealth Pen Pro is not an ordinary ink pen. Yes, it writes really well with a sharp and responsive ballpoint tip, but its real advantage is the rock-solid grip for unparalleled retention and stopping power. The Stealth Pen Pro also hides a glass breaker for car safety and reveals DNA catching teeth for that extra blast of impact. Last season, Jesse Encom and Nathan Levy ended free knife attacks with this very pen. So if you want one, don't wait. Enter now at theatomicbear.com/USDC. We'll run a new giveaway every week, and every entry also scores you a shot at the luxurious Guardian Titanium Pen Grand Prize. Now back to the Q&A.
How are the different schools of Krav Maga different? And what's the focus of the specific school that you're running?
Basically, there was a huge difference in me before every scenario happened. You'll notice whenever you watch the competition, I had to have 3 people holding me back at all times before we started a scenario, because I was so violently aggressive and I was so strong. It took 3 people to hold me back. I was striking fear into the hearts of everybody who saw me. And from there, that's where that Krav Maga mindset really starts, right? No, I didn't have to hold myself back, because like I said, you're not always fighting so aggressively. There's not really like these fantasy moves that are going to be one-touch knockouts. If you kick somebody in the groin, it's not always going to end the fight. If you gouge them in the eye, that probably just gave them the idea to gouge you in the eye, okay? You're just escalating the situation. Does it work? Yes. If you poke somebody in the eye, definitely it's going to hinder their ability to fight. And would I teach that? 100%. But don't assume they're like one-stop kill moves, because they're not. The person's going to keep fighting, and the more determined they are, the more that is actually going to motivate them to continue coming at you even harder. Okay, so yes, they work, those moves work, but don't think that it's a one-hit kill or a one-hit knockout, or every time you do it, it's going to stop the fight. So especially with us, wearing protective gear in the competition, those things don't even work, for instance. So we had to make sure that I fought in the same style that like a lot of people fight, like MMA style, using punches, kicks, those kinds of things. And you have to be skilled at that in order to utilize those. So that's kind of like the difference that we do. One of the major differences, kind of answering the question now, is what's different between the other organizations of Krav Maga. I'm not going to act like I know every single organization. Okay, I'm not going to act like I know all of their curriculums or all of their lead guys or their founders or whatever. But as far as, the overall system of Krav Maga, I do know how it was started, how it was founded, and who were the major players that brought Krav Maga and spread it across the world. With me, I started with the largest one. I was in that for like 10 years. Like I said, second degree black belt with them. And that's where I started to notice deficiencies. Once you get to that higher level and you see, okay, this is the extent of what they're going to offer. So then that's when I started looking at, why do I want to create my own? I actually talked to them once I got to that level, and I was, well known among their lead instructors, the ones that certify people up to second degree black belt. And I was like, hey, look, I'm seeing this deficiency here. I'm seeing this deficiency here. I've trained these other martial arts. I've trained these other combative styles. I've trained this firearm stuff. I've trained this knife stuff. Like, why are you still doing it this way, the same way that it was 25 years ago, whenever you first started it? And they just didn't want to respond to that. They didn't really want to change, even though I offered. So I was like, hey, I don't have to be held down by these guys. I'm just going to go ahead and do my own thing. If I branch out and all I'm able to influence is just my own school of people, the people that I teach, that's amazing. If I branch out and I'm able to, influence other schools to kind of follow my path and stick with us with Nomad Krav Maga, that's even better, because I just want to bring the best version of Krav Maga to as many people as I can, because I know Krav Maga will make people safer, make people more confident, and be able to walk through their life in a better, more confident feeling way. So that's my goal with Krav Maga. And as far as what separates good Krav Maga from bad Krav Maga, which I'm not going to lie, in my opinion, what I see out there, majority is bad Krav Maga. There's some really good schools, and I try to be one of those. There's some really good organizations, and I try to be one of those. But the vast majority of what you're going to see out there does not prepare you for real violence, because what they do is they separate self-defense from fighting. And fighting is self-defense, because if you can't de-escalate and you can't avoid, you're not going to be able to choreograph your way out of a situation. You're going to have to be a good fighter. That's why so many combat sports people, if they were to insert into a self-defense scenario, they do really well in real life. Where they don't do well a lot of times is if there's a weapon, but so do like Krav Maga people don't do well in real life if there's a weapon, because so many chaos and differentiators and unknowns come into play. So the difference is, a good Krav Maga school does not separate fighting from self-defense. They integrate fighting and resistive training from day one into what their students are doing. And they celebrate failure in drills, because you grow stronger when you fail. If you're winning every time, if you're getting a disarm within 5 seconds every time, if every time somebody throws a right cross, you do a perfect defense to a counter, and that's the way you expect violence to unfold in reality, you're going to be set up for a really bad day if violence ever comes your way for real. So good Krav Maga puts people in those stressful situations, those unknown, chaotic environments under control so that it's safe regularly from day one, so that they're preparing people for actually what's going to happen, which is chaos, unpredictability, and just the sheer unknowns whenever it comes to violence. So structured drills, sparring, rolling, grappling, striking, all that stuff needs to be integrated day one so that the person safely can do it in training and get prepared for what really happens in reality.
Did you have a win at all cost approach, or was your mindset focused on survival and self-defense?
Of course, whenever I went into the competition, my goal is to win, but I definitely need to survive to win, right? So there's you can't get killed and win a self-defense competition. So you have to do both. I'm going to go at it. And what I did is I went at it with the intent to win, but I did it smart, taking it measured steps, scenario by scenario, and adjusting my strategy based on what I saw in front of me in that moment. Were there mistakes made? Yes. Did I do some stuff right? Yes. So definitely going in to win, but you can't just go in with a one-size-fits-all strategy for an entire competition, because that's not the way these things work.
What aspect of your Krav Maga training do you think helped you the most during the championship?
All right, cool. So definitely when it comes to Krav Maga, the cool thing about it is that you're exposing yourself to a lot of different areas of fighting and combat, right? Striking, grappling, weapons-based combatives, weapons on the ground, weapons on the feet, de-escalation, multiple attackers, verbal skills, all that kind of stuff is what Krav Maga does well in reality. For me, the number one thing that helped me in the competition is just that well-rounded approach, meaning that I train everything as much as I can to get to a good level of proficiency in everything. Krav Maga is known for not being specialized. It's a kind of a martial art that incorporates the entire gambit of self-defense, all those things that I mentioned, plus more. And that's kind of what helped me the most, is having a wide variety of skills, and being able to implement those as best I could in the moment during those scenarios. And I think if I were to answer this even further, what really helped me the most is what we do differently from a lot of Krav Maga organizations and Nomad Krav Maga, is that full resistive training that I put into my training. Basically, the way I look at it is somebody that trains in Nomad Krav Maga, if you've been with us for, the length of time it's going to take you based on your skills to get good, you should be a good level like striker. You should be a good level grappler. You should be a good level wrestler. You should be a good level, weapons-based combatives person, meaning if a weapon comes out, can you stop them from deploying it? If a weapon comes out and it's for you, can you utilize it in the proper context? So just having that well-rounded approach, but also having it from a resistive background where I'm basically trying to spar and train like an MMA fighter, trying to spar and train like a boxer or a Muay Thai fighter, trying to spar and train like a jiu-jitsu competitor. That's how you've got to train to be good at real self-defense. You have to treat yourself like a fighter and train like a fighter. Is everybody going to be a high level at that? No, that's why I said a good level. Your level is different than mine. My level is different than somebody else. So just train to your level that's going to challenge you to really be the best. And that approach to training was my number one thing that helped me. And then lastly is conditioning. Whenever you talk to a fighter that's prepared to go in the cage or the ring, a lot of times, more often than not, what they fear the most is their own fatigue, because it's not the person in front of them. They know how to handle that person, whether they're going to win or not. They don't know. They're going in to win, but their own fatigue is often what's the most scary. So if you're preparing for something like this, or if you're preparing for real violence, you need to be in shape. You can't be a fat person that can't, go at full effort for 30 seconds to a minute without being 100% gassed and you want to roll over and die, because that's what a fight's going to be like. So you've got to put the conditioning in. And that's also something that I take really, a big focus of my training, is just pushing myself to my limit to be as physically conditioned as possible. So those are the things that help me the most, training resistively and trying to be in good shape.
Okay, so the question is short. What is Krav Maga's greatest strength, and how did that help in the championship? I think it's similar to what you answered before, but I think
basically just answered it. Yeah. So is there a sub question in there?
I'm just saying, quoting, "I'm so stoked you got a Krav Maga guy." I remember when voting contestants, people were hoping for a Krav Maga person, and it wasn't like the top one, and the person was bummed that it didn't happen, but this was an amazing surprise. So a lot of people are super excited to see you in the show, which is awesome. Great.
Yeah, I was super excited to be there. It's really cool to be included among those other high-level competitors. And, I tried to represent Krav Maga as best I could. And I think Krav Maga is a very good system of fighting and self-defense to do very well in the show and in real life. So I'm glad that it was there, and I'm glad that I was able to be part of it. As far as what's the biggest strength, it's in that previous answer that I went over. It's like not being too specialized, meaning like I could be the world's best striker, but then they start grappling me, I'm not going to have any skills. I could be the world's best grappler, and they pull out a gun from 4 feet away where I'm out of contact, and I have no skills with developing where I would go next. Or let's say I'm the world's best Krav Maga guy, but I have no skills as a striker or a grappler under real stress, under real resistance, then, I'm not going to have any ability to succeed in that either. So the main strength of Krav Maga is not being too specialized, having a broad skill set. But if you're doing it right, you should be specialized enough in each one of those things that you can handle yourself among a specialist of each one of those sub-disciplines, right? So that's a lot. Like, to be really good at that, it takes a lot of time, right? It takes a lot of skills. And, a specialist is always going to be better than the person that tries to do everything, if they've got the same time and the same physical attributes and the same, everything else is treated the same. But the moment that the fight goes in a place that person is not specialized in, they're going to have a big weakness. So for self-defense, you need to be familiar and capable in all avenues of the fight.
How rare is a good Krav Maga school? You mentioned they're pretty rare, right?
For instance, I don't tell people to always go train Krav Maga if they don't have a good school in their city. Basically, if they're like leaving my gym or they're trying to go in their own city to find something and there's not anything that they can do as far as like a Nomad Krav Maga school or a few of the other good organizations, I just tell them, hey, go train at like a MMA school because that's going to be the best way to get them safe and ready. However, they're going to still be seriously lacking in the skills of real self-defense because MMA is amazing at fighting one-on-one or even two-on-one, whatever. They can fight, but they're not going to deal with all the other stuff that I think where Krav Maga shines. So I've kind of harped it a lot in this. Krav Maga as a whole, the idea is sound. The system and what it should be is sound. It's the best thing that you can base yourself on for self-defense. If you're not looking for a combat sport, you're looking for just being effective in a fight in a real life scenario where all the variables could come into play. But most places, the vast majority, do not do that well. They actually give their students a huge overinflated sense of confidence because they allow them to win constantly under highly scripted and highly choreographed situations. And you'll see these people that are, you know, really incapable of actually dealing with a fight wearing a shirt around that says Krav Maga, touch me and your first lesson is free. And I'm like, hey, that's probably a really bad idea to wear that shirt because you actually can't fight. If somebody decides to touch you and hurt you, you almost have nothing you could potentially do unless you get really lucky. And even on the other side of that, just to kind of clarify that point, if you're the world's best fighter and the world's best Krav Maga guy and can deal with any situation, also don't wear a shirt like that because you're just kind of bringing in scrutiny. You're trying to bring in, you're inviting trouble. And then if trouble did find you, now that persona that you've tried to put out there is going to be one that's going to be used against you like legally for trying to prosecute you as well for whatever may have happened, even if you were justified in that situation. So big question, big small question, again, long answer, but it's super rare.
So have you used your martial arts, I guess essentially Krav Maga, in the self-defense scenario before this competition?
Yeah, just as all Krav Maga guys would say, if you're serious about it, literally everybody that gets it within arm's reach of me is either getting poked in the eye or they're getting kicked in the groin. You've got to keep your distance so that you're always aware of your surroundings at all times, right? And if they get in your space, you got to handle it Krav Maga style. No, for real. I use my self-defense training all the time, literally every day. Not only whenever I go out and about into public, but also even at my house. I mean, I feel safe and secure in my home, but I'm not always just oblivious to what could potentially be happening around me or outside, right? So that's the self-defense mindset. Having my house prepared and planned for any situation that could happen. That's the self-defense mindset if I had to use it. So by being prepared and knowing and thinking like that, I am actually using my training every day. Now, whenever I go out in public, I'm using my awareness skills. I'm looking at people as they walk in, making sure that I'm, you know, there is such a thing as proper profiling, okay? So I'm looking at people to see, like, do they look like a potential threat? If they are, how do I handle it if something happened? Can I avoid the situation? Can I leave? You know, position yourself in an environment where you can see the best vantage point of where potential things could happen. And then if something did happen, where are the exits? So we definitely want to do that as much as we can. So that is using your training. Me personally, where have I used it? I use that kind of stuff every day. But I have utilized verbal de-escalation skills like many times. Okay. So that has been my number one thing that I have used, because how often is somebody going to try to attack you physically? Probably not that often in most people's lives, but how often are people interviewing you, profiling you to see if you're a good victim? Probably way more than they're actually going to attack you. So if you have bad skills at de-escalating or bad skills at pretty much not letting them choose you as a target, if your skills at that are bad, you're going to be in a lot more bad situations. So I use those skills all the time. Have I ever had to punch or kick anybody or pull a knife or a gun or anything? I'll leave that to be determined. Because I
Got
wouldn't say if I had to unless somebody saw it happening.
it. Well, we'll see that happening in USDC. So that's
Yeah. I got to use it there.
What advice would you give to people looking to start their own studio on a limited budget?
Awesome. I got a lot of advice there because I did the exact same thing. I didn't go out, rent or buy a huge square footage, amazing facility, buy all the equipment, buy the gear, all that kind of stuff, put myself in huge debt or huge financial stress in order to open a gym. No, I found a good, reputable place that's already established. It was actually in Las Vegas, world-renowned Syndicate Mixed Martial Arts. This was way back in 2016. They are one of the top fight gyms in the world. Those guys really helped me out whenever I was starting. So you could have a similar story to that. You find a gym that's not really offering what you want to offer. Okay, so if you're doing Krav Maga, you're probably not a huge direct competitor to a jiu-jitsu school or to a MMA school because pretty much their target audiences are different, right? Not the same people go to those places. There's definitely a lot of crossover, people that like to do everything, but you're not a direct competitor of theirs, or at least I never saw it that way. So I approached them. So general advice, go to a gym that is not a direct competitor of what you have to offer, and you could potentially work out a deal where you use their mat space during off hours. My classes actually started at the end of the night after all the Syndicate MMA classes were done. Muay Thai was finished at 8. Nomad Krav Maga started at 8. Okay. Saturday, it was like Jiu-Jitsu ended at noon. Nomad Krav Maga started at noon. So I just used their space when they weren't using it. There's a lot of gyms that have empty time slots, so maybe you can do the same thing. Go find a yoga place, go find a CrossFit place, go find a whatever you want to be able to rent that space. Because I've done that and I've built a gym from zero to where we're at right now with Nomad Krav Maga. I've got a lot of experience with it, been running it for 10 years, and we're one of the most recognized Krav Maga schools in the world, and got national awards at running business from Yelp.com and Entrepreneur.com. So definitely, if you're interested to learn anything about that, I would be happy to help you. You can just contact me at Nomad Krav Maga on Instagram, send us a DM, and we'll be able to help you out further with this. And so general advice, start small, don't overextend yourself, build yourself up as you go along. If there's anything like Krav Maga wise that you would be able, that you'd want help with, I'm here. I'm a resource for that. And we do have an affiliate and a licensing program as well, where you don't have to go through all the trials and tribulations that I did. You can actually learn from the experience I've already, systemized for you. And that would be my preferred advice. If you want to come to me for help, there's a path for that.
What was it that drove you into finding and creating Nomad Krav Maga, your own organization?
I got really high up in the biggest Krav Maga organization there is. Are there ranks above that? Yeah, you could go higher up. Secondary black belt's not the top, but it's enough to see like, oh, okay, this is pretty much it. And once I saw what their kind of endpoint was, yes, there's further, but it's pretty much their endpoint. I was like, okay, so this is big time established Krav Maga. This is what it is. Well, it's kind of old and outdated, in my opinion, on a lot of things. It has a really good foundation, but a lot of the stuff wasn't there. Like the way they work with weapons defenses, like assuming you're going to get a disarm from a knife every single time, and if during training you don't do that, or if the person gives you real resistance where it doesn't look exactly like it's supposed to, they're like, hey, do it right, when it should be like, hey, give the guy real resistance and let it unfold using principles that are going to allow you to control the weapon, transition, and the fight's going to go where it goes, but making sure that you're just following the principles of a fight to win. So that's what we do. That was one of the big deficiencies. Simple, overly simplified striking, where the max level you're ever going to go in their striking system. This is true for most Krav Maga organizations, if not pretty much all of them. You're basically a super low level, skilled Muay Thai guy. Like you never get into like really technical stuff. And many of you may not know this, Natan Levy is actually Nomad Krav Maga's lead striking instructor. He coached me for years in private training, and he runs classes with us. So he was a huge influence to expand our striking. And if you guys know Natan, you know he's an expert striker. So him and me being friends for a long time, and him training me and me training him in Krav Maga really influenced that as well. And then really the concealed carry applications of real self-defense needed to be greatly expanded. So one of my main two places that I attribute like firearms training to, Progressive Force Concepts in Las Vegas and Todd Fosse's integrative defense strategies, they helped me see huge deficiencies in what big box Krav Maga offers as far as being able to utilize concealed carry handgun and integrating that with the fight. So I saw that. And the last thing was a deficiency in just the verbal skills. Like you never do that enough in most traditional big box Krav Maga. So they weren't interested in kind of incorporating what I was doing. I offered and they're like, no. And I'm like, hey, I highly respect what you're doing. You're definitely successful in your own light. So let me just go step away and do it myself. And then I don't have to answer to anybody and I can basically do it however I feel is the best. And that's what I did with Nomad Krav Maga. That's why basically I founded Nomad Krav Maga as a gym in 2016, but I founded Nomad Krav Maga as a system in 2020. So that's when I went my own way. And that was because I wanted to offer the very best, most modern, most integrated, and just the best iteration of Krav Maga as far as my experience allowed it. And that's what I've continued to do for the last 5 years.
Final question from myself. What can the audience expect from Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 3?
Oh, the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 3 is going to be off the chain. It's like, if you like Season 1, you saw Season 2. Season 2 was like, it blew Season 1 out of the water. Not the competitors, just the overall like production, right? So now if you're thinking about Season 3, just get ready to be prepared for the unexpected, because it's just next level. The production's next level. The competitors are next level. And the attackers, oh, there's a few surprises with those guys. Those guys are beasts, and just get ready to be unready, because you can't be ready for the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship Season 3. Guys, if you're still watching this, make sure if there's anything I can help you with your self-defense training, how to evolve your school to the next level, or you're looking to really kind of dive into that world to bring Krav Maga to your city, or you're already a highly experienced Krav Maga person that may have ran a gym for years and you're looking to get your skills to the next level, you got to reach out to me. We're on Instagram at Nomad Krav Maga. You can check us out on our website, nomadkravmaga.com. We do have a licensing and affiliate plan and a program so that you can bring what we've done to bring Krav Maga, I believe, to the next level. Bring it to your students, bring it to your city. Let's really revolutionize Krav Maga so that it is actually what it should be. It should have that reputation of being the best and most effective system for self-defense. But as you guys know, it doesn't have that reputation. So let's be the change together, and let's push Krav Maga to be the best that it can be and get that reputation back at the top.